Get into it if you want to.
We can't get canceled over Halloween.
We're not going to get canceled over... Stupid. I can't go out like this. Audio Jungle. Hey everyone. Welcome back to Experts About Nothing.
Woo! We are super excited for our episode today. It's kind of a fun, controversial topic.
Spicy.
Maybe we're getting... spicy, a little bit of tea. But before we jump in to our topic of the day, we need to talk about this upcoming holiday, for better or for worse.
Halloween.
AKA Halloween. This is Diksha's most dreaded holiday.
I don't know. This is why. It's because it's a anxiety-inducing holiday for absolutely what? For what? To dress up as a clown?
Yeah.
Literally a clown.
Also, so sorry. There's probably, they can hear the honking outside.
Whatever,
anyway.
adds character.
I agree. I think Halloween as an adult, it gets like dumber and dumber because I think in college it's fun. That's
fun because it's a whole reason to celebrate. It's a fun creative exercise apart from school. I'm about Halloween in college. And like growing up, it's fun, right? Even in high school, there's a few years you just gotta quit it. You know what I mean? Unless you're going to house.
Halloween's no. Unless you're cool and you get invited to parties.
Like dead ass. You know
not.
What's crazy? My biggest secret is I went trick-or-treating until 10th grade.
That's so
crazy. It's actually so inappropriate. And I'm like, oh my God,
That's so
why did I do that?
Wait, did you like Halloween when you were like a kid?
Yeah, but I would literally just be an Indian princess every fucking year. Like, I had one costume, and until I grew that costume out, then I was just wearing, like, Indian clothes and rolling every year.
That is... I mean, it's cost efficient for sure.
You can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Halloween, get into it if you want to.
We can't get canceled over Halloween.
We're not going to get canceled over... It's stupid. I can't go out like this. But this is my philosophy. If there's, like, a party that you're hosting, for sure, you got to go all out. Have
show
costumes.
Out,
like,
yeah.
you have to show out.
You need to have a cool costume.
But if you are, like, you know, just an average person, don't really have Halloween plans, why you gotta dress up? For fun.
I don't know. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it, I think.
My other thing is, I think the next time I'll be hype about Halloween is for my kids.
Yeah,
because then
sure.
I'll be like, okay, I'll dress like a pirate just for fun. To get everyone in the Halloween spirit, I'll make them cookies, like whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean? We'll do the pumpkins, decorations.
No, I am so hyped to have kids and dress them up.
Dressing them up is hype, but I'll dress myself up too then because it's like a whole thing. You know what I mean?
Costumes. I think that stuff is so adorable.
Yeah, that's like fun.
It.
That's like a fun part of being a kid, so I don't want to like ruin that for them. But I just feel like these lost years in the middle. It's like, why do we have to do
I think
this?
the years that you have an iconic costume idea, it's so fun. Because when you roll up and your costume is snatched with your friends, and it's like either fun. I've never had a hot costume, so it's always like something fun. Stupid and hilarious or funny or something. Then it's super fun and you're just like excited to go out because you're like, everyone see this funny costume.
Yes.
The years that you don't, like recently I just have not been thinking about it or planning it, or like, you know, you need to put effort in and then Halloween could be fun. But it's like if you don't want to put effort in and then you're just kind of trying to scramble together your Halloween plans, it's not fun because you're like, my costume's not put together.
Yeah, you either have to go fully all out or you have to not do anything.
But it's kind of hard, I think, in your 20s, especially when you're living in like a city or anywhere. Probably people just want an excuse to like have parties and get together and do things. So every year I'm like, oh, I'm probably not going to do anything for Halloween. But then like it comes around and everyone's like, oh yeah, let's do that.
This is my problem. Okay, this was us this week.
Yeah.
Even on Monday, I was like, no, I'm not doing Halloween this year. I'll bop around. I'll come wherever you guys are. I don't care about dressing up. Tuesday happens. I see our friends are coming to town. I'm like, oh my God.
It would have happened regardless. Even if it was just us four on Friday, like we have one thing to go to on Saturday, it's like, oh, do I really want to roll up and be the one person not dressed up? And you're going to scramble and get a costume.
I know, but it's so annoying. Anyway, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're doing Halloween.
It's not the most fun holiday, but I gotta say, I think I am a fall girly. Like, I love the rest. Halloween, take it or leave it. I don't really care. But the fall, the pumpkin stuff, the apple stuff, like, I'm just in the festive mood.
Yeah. Priya always, I feel like you every fall go to Trader Joe's and you're like, I need to get a fall treat. That's your thing at every season of Trader Joe's.
That is my thing, and I'm acting as if I did a ton of fall activities. I've done nothing. I have not gone apple picking. I haven't seen a single pumpkin patch. I haven't even really seen that many trees, okay? I am just coming off of going to Trader Joe's this past weekend.
She's just liking the vibe inside stores.
I love the vibe. And also, of course, the pumpkin beverages at Starbucks. Those are like the two things.
No, I am a holiday beverage gal. That's my favorite season.
But I think I gotta say I like the pumpkin beverages more than the winter beverages.
Nuts. That's so nuts.
I used to be a peppermint mocha girl.
This is the thing. I don't think we've tried all the Christmas ones, and that's what we need to do this year. Because we literally tried... I tried everything on that fall menu.
The pumpkin cream cold brew has me in a chokehold, and I don't know. Like, I want her year-round. I just want her all the time.
I want sugar cookie latte year-round. But I think it could be.
It could be. They're just
I don't know why they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, it's so sad.
I know. I love the lead up to the winter. And then January hits, it's just a demise of the vibe.
For 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, until mid-March, basically.
We're going to ride it out until then and have a great time.
Yep. Okay, Priya, what are we talking about today?
Okay, everyone, we're talking about something very near and dear to my heart, unfortunately.
And very fall and spooky.
Oh, it is spooky. I was like, why is it fall? Yeah, we're talking about ghosting.
Ghosting. Ooh. We've all done it. You know you have.
Yeah, we've all done it. Some more than others. And we're going to talk about the different types of ghosting that we think we've categorized.
And we're also going to tell you our personal philosophies on ghosting and what scenarios it's okay to ghost, very few, and what scenarios it's not okay to ghost. So we're going to break it down for you.
Context is always needed in this conversation. And I used to be a girly who was like very black and white about ghosting, and I was like, no, there's no scenario that anyone can ever ghost or I can't ghost. And I would like put myself in these really uncomfortable situations where I was like, I can't ghost this person even if I don't want to talk to them anymore and I'm uncomfortable because of like the principle of the matter. And I've grown out of that. Like now I'm like, we have the levels of ghosting. Do you want to talk about the levels of ghosting?
Okay, so we've broken this down into 3 main categories. We have serious offense ghosting. This is when you tell someone that you're going to show up somewhere or you're going to do something and then your presence or response is nowhere to be found.
It's not even physically like you show up to a place and the person's not there. I think it also counts if it's like you made plans with someone, the day comes around, you're waiting all day, and then you text them or whatever, you try to contact them.
They don't follow up with you.
Which is already red flag. But I think it's the serious offense is when you like double text or you're trying to be like, okay, so what are we doing? And
or like, hey, are we still meeting up today?
It's
nothing.
A ghost. I think that's serious offense, especially if the vibe was friendly up until that point.
True. Then we have a medium ghost. This is when one person is giving clearly more than the other, and both parties know their place in this ghosting scenario. So like the person that's not giving much is fully aware they're not into it that much.
Yes. And this one I think is very relatable because I think we've all been in a situation where we medium ghost someone. Maybe they're not your vibe, you don't love them, but it's a little bit of like, not like a hardcore, I'm going to straight up not respond to you, but you're giving way less.
Yeah.
Than you know is right in that situation.
Right. And then we have a mild ghost. So this is like when you're actively just putting a little bit of distance in between someone just because you're not that close. Maybe you don't love them, but you're always going to like see them and interact with them. So you're just like putting a comfortable distance in between you and them for your own sanity.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note, like, I think ghosting is always related to relationships and dating. Like, that's like the main context people think about ghosting. But you can get ghosted in a variety of environments in different ways. So we're going to break that down. But let's get into the relationship one first because
that's what we're all thinking about.
That's the top of mind, unfortunately. Right. So let me tell my story. So I recently got ghosted, which is why we're even doing this episode.
That was the inspiration.
That was the inspo. Glad to share it with you all. But basically, exactly what I described in the beginning of the episode. I had been talking to someone in a dating capacity. Also, this person was extremely pressed, like trying to make plans.
Yes, I was just gonna say, this guy, we've seen the receipts, was so pressed, double texting if Priya wouldn't text, and I'd be like, what's the deal, you know?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm in a headspace right now where I'm like, okay, if someone's putting out that energy, like, I'm down to meet, unless it's like a weird vibe, then I'm not down to meet. But I was like, okay, let's meet. We make plans to meet on a specific day. The day comes around, and then already he's kind of like pushing me to tell us where we're gonna meet and stuff, which I hate. So I was like, okay, whatever. I sent him a place that we could meet at, and I was like, is this time work? Blah, blah, blah. And this is the day of, and just complete ghost, like fell off the face of the earth. Like, I think the thing that triggers me the most about ghosting in this type of capacity where it is a serious offense is that you block out a part of your day or your weekend or whatever to, like, meet a person, and then you're just left in the dust.
Like you were literally accommodating for this person in your schedule.
Especially this particular plan was on a weekend, and that to me grinds my gears because we get 2 days of peace.
It was on a Saturday, I think.
It was best day, and I'm like, okay, I'm blocking off literally 3 hours of my Saturday to hang out with this person, and no response, no explanation, nothing.
Did you text at all during the day?
Yeah, I did. I was the one who sent, like, the plans of, like, oh, are we gonna meet here, blah, blah, blah. Like, I sent the place.
Oh, God.
I literally made a reservation. I wanted to actually look in the mirror and see a clown. That's what I saw, okay? I was like, this is the clowniest feeling, and I hate it. I think, okay, let me break down why this is the worst type of ghosting. 1, again, you blocked out time. That's really disrespectful. 2, I think especially for girls in this situation, it takes a lot more for us to, like, say yes to go on a date. I think
and the preparation is so much.
Safety, like there's just like so many things you have to consider. All that mental bandwidth that you expensed on trying to meet like a literal random person, and then this happens and you just feel so embarrassed. Like that is the fundamental feeling. It's the embarrassment. And I was shook for the day. I think, like, I haven't gotten ghosted like that in a while. Like, cold like turkey, literally. Ghost. Especially the making plans part. That's what, like, kind of sends me. And I was like, oh, my God. I literally had plans. I made this reservation. I feel so, like, gross from that experience of feeling that embarrassed. And like humiliated in that moment. And I don't think there's ever going to be a point, even if I am like the most confident version of myself, that I wouldn't feel embarrassed in that situation.
No, and I feel like that's so valid. When you're ghosted in any capacity, I feel like even if you're in like a committed relationship and you're ghosted by your significant other, that still feels off. Like you just don't feel good, and you feel like you're pining for someone, and that they're not giving you the same level of respect or interest back. It's just a sucky feeling. You just feel inferior.
Yeah, it's just that disrespect that really gets you. And so I think like for that day, like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just so like kind of sad by this situation. Not even because I was that invested in this person. Like there's a difference between just feeling a little bit humiliated versus like heartbreak. There's no heartbreak there. It's just more like I feel really disrespected, and that was just like a shitty feeling. But, you know, you got to make the most of the situation. So that evening, Diksha and I just literally had a full night to ourselves and went out to dinner and got drinks, and it was really fun and ended up being a fabulous night. But
yeah, it was a fun night.
It was a fun night. But like that is what I call serious offense ghosting in a relationship setting.
No, I completely agree. And this is something, you know, that me and Priya have talked about before. I haven't been on the apps too much, so I don't fully know, like, the dating types of ghosting. I've never fully experienced that on my own, which I'm very lucky. But I think, like, something that I always resonated with Priya is that, like, if you meet someone in person, it's just, like, common courtesy to follow up after and just, like, let them know your intention. Instead of one person kind of feeling like the date went amazing and, like, being super excited by it, and then another person just, like, not following up whatsoever and, like, not sending, like, did you get home okay? You can just say, I've had a great time, but I don't think, like, this is for me right now. You don't even have to make it about, like, something they did. Just put the blame on yourself and roll. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah. Especially after meeting someone in person, I think you don't need to continue the conversation, or personally, this is my philosophy. You don't need to continue the conversation a lot longer if you, like, are genuinely not interested in that person.
Yeah.
But I think those, like, initial text messages after you meet of like, oh, got home okay, like whatever, nice meeting you. Those are just really cordial because there's something really like off about meeting someone, spending like 1 or 2 hours with that person, and then just neither of you ever like
acknowledging
talking again or acknowledging that experience. Like I've had that happen to me as well, and that is also just like a weird, humiliating feeling.
And I feel like this is maybe a less common thing because I think people are just kind of used to ghosting even after the first date, especially in New York, just because the dating scene is so nuts. So, like, I'm sure a lot of people, girls and guys, like, go on dates and then, you know, they maybe don't vibe with someone as well as they thought they would, and then they just never speak to them again.
And, I mean, it's the dating app culture. Like, it's literally a culture of having apps that show you, like, hundreds and hundreds of people. And so there's a certain point where you don't think of them as people anymore. You just think of them as, like, images, and you're just like, whatever. Like, they don't have feelings. It doesn't matter. So I think that's why a lot of people ghost and do it easily, because they don't care.
I just feel like you should always treat someone that you meet on a dating app as if you met them in person, as if you like see them around. You just never want things to go sour. That's just like a respect thing, even if you're not friends. Also, the city's big, but sometimes it's proven to be very small.
I know.
And like if you
could run into these people.
Yeah, and like I don't know, like it's always better to like leave things on a better note than a bad one. Even if things don't work out, it's okay. Like, people don't expect to, like, meet the love of their life every single date. You're just trying to get to know someone. So, better practice to just be honest about how you feel and just be upfront with the person, especially at our age. These games and stuff are, like, cute and fun at, like, 18. But, like, at 25, 26, who has the time?
It's so exhausting. It's like, why are we acting like this? Draining and makes no sense. And also, people don't have the tolerance anymore. I think that's the other thing. Like, people play these games, and more like girls in like their mid-20s, late 20s are just like, okay, next. Like, I actually don't have the time to like pine after someone who's not giving me the same energy. Like, the chase was maybe fun earlier on. It's not anymore. We got obligations and jobs and like things to do. Like, this is not your whole life.
I feel like in New York, even dedicating a Saturday night here is crazy.
It's
because
kind
that's
of crazy.
Like, I know friends, they're like, I literally don't date on weekends. I only date on weekdays.
I love that rule, but also I hate going outside on weekdays. So it's a real predicament.
Yeah, you're really stretching yourself.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting rule that I also am like, wow, that could be good.
Yeah.
So your weekends are never ruined by some random person. And oh, I have a fun question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you know, went on a date, super polite with, like, said person, texted them back after, kind of, like, said your piece, were like, had a great time, hope you got home okay, period, right? Mm-hmm. And then you, like, you know, like, you don't have any intention of, like, talking to them again, but then they don't catch the message, and they keep texting you. What do you do in that situation?
Usually I'll try to like hint at the fact that I'm not interested in, like, I try really hard to make it known in the like text. Like, I try
the initial message.
Yeah, I'll text things that don't warrant like a response, or, you know, like
just
no
a
questions,
quick answer to a question.
Be like, yep, okay, or like something like very like bland. I have sometimes been like, hey, not interested in this situation, or like, I think we're on different pages, but like, wish you the best. And then I have ghosted in that situation.
Yeah, and I feel like that qualifies as a mild ghost. Like, you're just not interested and like someone can't catch the hint. There's definitely scenarios like that. I feel like sometimes you just really got to be so clear, spell it out. Like, obviously spell it out with your actions, not with words. That's kind of rude. But you know what I mean? Like, sometimes people don't get the message, so.
Yeah, and I think there's nice ways to put it, and if they still don't get it, then, like,
what can you do?
It's like, you tried your best. I think it's more, like, the shaking ghost feeling is when someone, like, literally doesn't see it coming, and it's not warranted in that scenario, and, like, you're just, like, literally dropping off the face of the earth for no reason. Like, that, I think, is more, there's not, like, a huge redemption arc there for me, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, and to end off this relationship section, I have a fun ghosting story about
this is the flip side of ghosting. This is a ghosting success story.
This is a one-off ghosting success story. So I always make fun of P about this because I am always like, you ghosted me. Our first, like, supposed to be date. For background, for those of you who don't know, me and P met our internship, like, summer before senior year in college. And one night, I was like, hey, I'm catching vibes. let me know if you see the vibes too.
Yeah.
And then I like went to sleep, woke up, and he texted me and he was like, I feel the same. Let's grab dinner tonight. Mind you, this was in the morning on Saturday, so like the day goes by. I'm like, so then I messaged him at like 6, which is very mortifying to do in that situation, very vulnerable. And I'm like, hey, you're still on for dinner tonight? And he's like, sorry, I'm at the mall. The mall?
The mall is the funniest.
I was like, so sad, so mad, but...
Yeah, that was the one redemption situation, and P is still redeeming himself
5 years later.
So, unless you want to be...
that guy.
Don't. Sorry for years. Then don't do it. Just don't do it.
Great. So now let's move into work ghosting. And this is like a place where you don't really think about ghosting, but listen, I'm guilty AF of it. I'm sure others are. And it's definitely the area of ghosting I'm most improving on, for sure.
Yes. And I think, again, there's the same levels apply in work ghosting as like any realm of ghosting. But this is one that I actually think is so interesting because I've always felt this feeling like multiple times in internships and different jobs, but I didn't qualify it as ghosting. Like, I was like, oh, people don't care about what I gotta say or something because
it's like an imposter syndrome / ghost.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But I think it's important to call it out as ghosting. You could be saying something important or asking like a valid question.
Like, you don't know the value of what you're asking. These other people might be thinking it too.
Yeah, and so the real examples that I take here is like, when you cold email or cold Slack someone from a different department, a team you're trying to get to know, like, I know I've done that before, and you just get no response, like kind of like a full-on ghost. And then another scenario at work is, especially in the Slack day and age, which frankly stresses me out with someone who has messaging anxiety. I'm like, great, everything's on a public channel that like 50 million people
at least
can see.
15 other people are looking at all times.
Yeah, like asking something in a channel with no response, posting about your work in something and like no reactions, like stuff like that feels like ghost.
I mean, it's like, Slack is literally like work Instagram / work social media.
Yeah, it's
like
work social media.
Like when you post something, you're like kind of waiting for someone to respond or like someone to comment back, someone to like it, respond to it in some way. The scenario that I immediately think of when I think of work ghosting is like when you ask a team a question or you ask someone for like assistance on something and then you're ghosted.
Yeah.
And it's like you need their help. Like, you know what I mean?
And then you have to... Like, especially in those situations where you can't just walk away from that with no response. Like, you actually need it to unblock you, and you have to be like, bump on this message. Like, anyone see
the
this?
bump is
I
like...
hate it. It's so humiliating.
It's so... but it's also, like, it's so awkward, like, in the workplace setting, because you're like, can you just respond, please? And none of us have to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do have to call myself out on one scenario. Mm-hmm. And I will be responding to this person. This person on a different team reached out and was like, hey, like, do you want to grab a coffee at a coffee shop, but you have to exit the office and, like, walk 3 blocks to get to this coffee shop? I, like, don't know this person. I don't know. Is that... Let me know your thoughts on this.
I think I'm immune to this because my first job, we had these, like, in-person coffees with random people. And you had to just, like, meet them at the lobby and you would walk outside and go get coffee with that person and come back.
Oh, my God. Like,
it was
literally,
crazy.
I would be mortified. That's why I do not sign up for those types of things. Like, I literally cannot.
It's like a whole
I feel like me getting coffee, I've stepped out for coffee 0 times. 0 times in the 3 years I've been at this office. So then this guy said that, and I was immediately thrown off. He said coffee outside at a specific place, and I was like, well, time to respond to this later.
Yeah.
1 month later, I still have not responded to that, and I feel so bad. She messed up there, but yeah, I feel like how to not get ghosted would be to not ask for too much at work. Throw some time on the cal. Let's chat it up. I'd love to talk about how we can help each other in the workplace setting.
Yeah. I know. It is intense, and I think, in general, I think whether work or even just personal life, there's so many times where I'm like, oh, I just will respond to that later, and then you don't, and that's like a form of ghosting. I'm not a good texter, honestly. So
neither.
That is a problem, and I think I also ghost my loved ones and family members the most just because I'm like, I can like double text them later.
That is actually the thing I don't do.
Really?
I ghost my family and my closest friends the least.
Whoa.
Yes.
I ghost them the most.
I ghost them the least because I'm like, these are the people that I interact with daily and like require responses for me to like do things. There's not going to be like an emergency that my like third like degree friend is gonna need me for.
I think it's because like I ghost people on like things that don't require a response from me. Like when people are just saying dumb stuff.
This is so bad, but I also ghost sometimes when there's like big plans that are happening a long time from now. You know what I mean?
It's really overwhelming to think about. I do that too.
And I'm like, okay, like I don't need to give my full attention to this right now because I have 3 things going on this weekend that I just need to get through. And then I'll like respond then.
Yeah, and then you forget.
And then you forget. And it's like a cycle.
That's why literally Apple, if you're listening, just have the mark as unread feature on messages. Mm-hmm. It would save so many people.
It would.
Literally all I want to do is just mark a message as unread. You could do that on Slack too. Like it's just so easy, and I just forget because I open something
and then
it's out of sight, out of mind. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to see it.
I know, and especially I feel like the older you get, the more priorities and like stuff happening.
You're juggling all these
your phone's
random
constantly
things.
Blowing up. So I'm like, I totally get why like messages kind of like fall through and stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes if they're a close friend, like that you just like haven't seen in a while, hit them with a double text. Who cares? I appreciate it. Every time I get hit with a double text, I'm like, I am so trash. I can't believe I haven't responded to the last 15 messages you sent. So sorry.
No, and you know what? Even in a work setting, I've been trying my hardest, which is against every fiber in my being, because I have a serious issue with talking in group messages and also talking to people I don't know well, which is why remote work is actually really hard for me, because I think in person, I'm weirdly more likely to just be like, hey, I have a question. I don't feel like that's that awkward because I don't feel like they can ghost me in that situation.
Oh, no, they can't. They can't just look away.
Yeah, like in the office, I'd be like, hey, I have a question about something. Do you have a second? Mm-hmm. And then like you either get the immediate answer or they'll be like, oh, come back in like after this meeting. On Slack, email, whatever, like you can get fully cold ghosted and no one would ever
people
know.
Like read it and they're like, someone else will answer it.
Yeah.
And they roll.
And it's so awkward.
And I think this is something that I've done recently because I've just been making it my goal to be more communicative in workplace settings and stuff. One tip, just go into the office. I know everything is like optional now, but like I have my most productive days when my ass is in the office. But then also to just try to respond to a few Slack messages a day that you're not required to. Whether that's like a fun message or like, this is an interesting article I found. Yeah. I find it so much easier now because I've started like implementing that rule. Just good exposure to start doing that and just to be comfortable having people like see your name, see that you're responding, see that you know what you're talking about, you know?
Yeah, I agree. That's something that I've been really trying to do, especially like if you want to gain more legitimacy in your role or like you're trying to be the point person for certain things, you may have the answers, and it goes back to imposter syndrome where it's like, I think especially females are way less likely to chime in, even if they know the answer and they see the message first. Like, I know I do that all the time. I'm just like, that. And then I'm like, I'm just going to do something else until someone else responds.
Yeah, or it's like, maybe that's not 100% right.
Yeah, that might not be 100% right. What's the worst that can happen? I've gotten corrected at this point 1,000,000 times, and it's never
big deal.
That big of a deal.
Oh my God. My other strategy is I say in full form what I think an answer to a question is. And then in parentheses, I'm like, at my manager, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And then that way, if my manager like agrees with it, he just hits me with a Slack emoji, like a check or something.
I agree. And I think workplace ghosting, the biggest takeaway here is do not take things personally. I know ghosting always you have to take things personally because it's a very personal feeling that you get, but especially in the workplace,
I feel like that's my least offensive form of ghosting.
It's the least offensive form, but I understand that it slowly like chips away at your confidence in the workplace. Like I know it does for me when I like get ghosted multiple times or like feel like people are not taking me serious enough to like answer my questions or respond to like my work. But I guarantee that it's not personal. People just probably are busy or like don't have the time to look at something
things going on
at that moment. And double text, like keep posting. Don't let that stop you because it's not worth it. You're the only one losing in that situation.
Yep, completely agree. No one cares as much as you.
Yeah. True. And another thing that I've realized is, like, as we're growing in our careers and hopefully eventually get into, like, positions where people will look to you for advice and, like, ask you, like, important decision-making questions, I think you can really tell the difference between leaders who have the same sense of respect for everyone that they're working with and leaders that don't.
Leaders that only, like, respond to other leaders?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, people who only respond to other people that have clout. Like, you can see that very clearly in the workplace, and I think that is something I want to be super self-aware of as
you're
growing in my career. Mm-hmm. Because it's just so different, the vibe you get from people. Regardless of if you're an intern or the CEO, they're going to, like, respond to you in the same level of respect. Even if you don't have the time, I've seen, like, leaders like that be like, hey, sorry, super preoccupied with, like, something else, but I'll get back to you, or, like, talk to this person about it, whatever. And, like, that's all you need to do. It takes 30 seconds of your day.
Completely agree. And I feel like that also just changes the entire vibe for women, individual contributors, younger people, anyone on your team that just is, like, needs a confidence boost. It feels so good to be respected by leadership and, like, to be asked your opinion by leadership, because a lot of the times people kind of brush over it unless you speak up. Like, no one's, like, asking for it. But yeah, anyway, now we're going into work. But I feel like in terms of the ghosting thing, definitely don't ghost, and, like, also be one of those leaders that Priya was talking about that's, like, considerate and caring and cares about what everyone thinks.
And it'll make you feel good, too. It's mutually beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to not ghost in the workplace setting.
Don't be a ghost, basically. Okay, so now we're going to get into the spicy one. I think this is the spiciest one.
I think this is spicy, too.
So this is ghosting when you actually just straight up don't get along with the person. Or, like, they're not your vibe. You know that you could never really be, like, good
closest friends with them. Yep.
But you're in a lot of the same settings. And this could also happen at, like, work, or you're, like...
Could happen in your family.
Family, friendships, whatever. Like, every realm of life, like, you might come across a person that you straight up just, like, don't get along with, but have to be in the vicinity with. And I think there's, like, a level of ghosting that people do to cope with that situation.
Yes, and in this situation, I feel like the main forms of ghosting are mild and medium. Serious ghosting is basically not even allowed in this setting because they're in such, like, close...
Unless it's, like, a very hostile situation where you're, like,
literally dangerous.
Yeah.
This is something that I am also working on, just because there's always scenarios where, like, you just can't stand being around someone, and literally have talked to a therapist about just general situations like this. And the truth of the matter is, you're not going to be like every single person you meet.
Yeah.
The way you think is not going to be the exact same as the person next to you, or even half the same. There are 7 billion people on this earth. You are not going to get along 100% with everyone, as we know. When you're ghosting in this situation, it's to protect your peace. And I feel like that is how you should think about it when you are ghosted in this situation, or when you are the one doing the ghosting. One situation that I have, like, experienced is when someone is trying to hang out with me, but I don't invite them back to situations because I'm like, this is not my ideal hang. You know what I mean? Like, if I have free time, I'd rather hang out with people that I'm closer to, or like I have more in common with, and, like, get along with easier. I definitely do that in some cases, and, like, I just don't feel bad about it anymore because that's fine. It's my time, and, like, how I choose to use my time, especially as you get older, is literally your choice.
Yeah, I think as long as there's just a baseline level of respect towards the person, you have to do what's best for you. Like, I think there's a difference between, like, bullying someone or making them feel incredibly, like, unwanted or, like, whatever. Like, kind of being, like, really, like, outwardly malicious.
Yeah.
Versus being just not as interactive with that person because you know that you personally, like, can't handle it and it would, like, affect you.
Yeah.
And I think confrontation is a really hard thing for people to do, and is not always warranted. That might be controversial opinion. I know some people are like, you should just hash things out all the time.
But some things aren't hashable. That's, like, why this type of ghosting is even present. Just because they're not like you and you don't operate the same way doesn't mean they're bad people. They're just not like you.
Yeah. You just don't get along in that manner.
Yeah.
And you need some distance between you guys, and, like, that's fine. And I think that happens a lot more than we even realize with people, where you're just like, oh, we don't vibe, and like automatically you just kind of don't really like run in the same circles or don't interact that much unless you need to. But as long as there's just a level of kind of empathy on both sides, I don't think it's a huge issue. Or like it won't morph into a huge issue, but it is a little dicey because there are situations where you're like, I'm forced to like be here and I can't get out of it and I need to like operate.
I think that's just life. Like, you're always gonna have to interact with people that you don't love, but it's just about like putting up those boundaries that you need to make sure that you're still good and you're not affected by that deeply. If you're affected by them one night, whatever, but like it shouldn't like stick with you for like weeks and weeks and weeks on end to the point where like you're miserable, and it's like affecting your other relationships, your relationship with yourself. I think that's the key, and especially when things feed into your insecurities and stuff, it's okay to like put distance between you and a person if it like just doesn't make you feel good.
I think another area where we've seen this is like friendship groups, where there's a period of time where you're all super close, like on the same wavelength, everyone is together and like
in the same place,
in
like,
the
physically.
same mental and physical place at that point in time, and then you kind of grow out of that friendship. And I know we've talked about that a bunch of times, but that happened to us, I think, in our like big college friend group, where we had like a ginormous friend group, boys and girls, tons of people. We were all hanging out 24/7 throughout college, and then, you know, also things happen that caused some cracks in the circle of friendship over like 4 years. I think that's a very common college
especially
experience.
when there's so many people.
There's like, so many people, diverging personalities, you know, shit gets messy. And then it kind of fizzles out, but we're at the point of our lives where like we're really close to like different people in that friend group. Like, not all of the friendships are gonna dissolve. There's still a lot of really close and healthy and like amazing friendships in that group, but there are times where you're like in a room with the whole squad and you're like, this is awkward.
Like, you know, like we have these situations where like it's someone's wedding, it's like a party, it's a birthday, like, and you just see all these people that like you were once really close with, and I feel like those types of interactions are always a little like, what do we do? But I feel like most of the time, the older you get, the less people really care too much about the past. They're just like here to be good in the past. No one likes fighting. Like, that's what I'd like to think. It's not fun. It's not like cool to be awkward. I feel like the best way to just like absolve that is just talk to whoever you feel comfortable talking to still, and be cordial and move it along.
Protect the friendships you care about. I think that's what we do all the time. We're literally like, doesn't matter, not going to take things as seriously anymore, and put in the effort where you want to.
I feel like it's totally okay if you have day of convos with like people that like initiate convo with you. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes you just can't even avoid it. Obviously there's scenarios where like both people are fully like avoiding each other, but like if there's actually no like drama or tea between like two people, sometimes you are like in those situations where you have catch up convos, and then that's where you leave it at, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's actually so much healthier in a way, unless the person is genuinely not good for you at all, and like you have like a serious rift. For people that you're not close to anymore, or maybe like
haven't seen in a while,
diverged friendships, whatever, I think having a very acquaintance level healthy conversation where you're like, hope you're doing good, great, move it along. I don't think it needs to be like, we're gonna rekindle this decade-long friendship. It just needs to be like, we're both cordial and it's good. Like, I really appreciate those types of convos, and I want to be better about like initiating them. I don't think I'm usually on the receiving end, I gotta be honest, because I'm always like, I am frazzled and I cannot walk up to a person and be like, hey, what's good? That's really hard sometimes, but it just breaks the ice and makes things like less awkward.
Yes, and that's one thing I was gonna say. Don't be that person that makes it uncomfortable for someone when you're celebrating your friends. Main thing is to just remember who you're there for and just make sure you focus on them and not your tea, because at the end of the day, you don't want to keep remembering the tea that you had. You want to remember the event you were there for. You never want to make people feel bad that they invited you somewhere or that they invited someone else, because everyone has their own unique relationship with someone else, and it's important to like have respect for them even if you don't necessarily 100% support it.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the small things that are really not that deep, it's never worth it, and you're there for a reason, and it's for, like, the person that it's for, and that's that. And if there are people you need to, like, fully avoid, just do that and move it along. That's it. Like, I just don't think there's a reason for, like, hostility in those situations. And I don't think we've ever even experienced that. There's never been, like, hostility because everyone knows what they're there for. So, yeah.
It's very spooky, it is.
It's a spooky season and a spooky episode. Okay, so what are our favorites?
Okay, favorite fall fashion trend.
Ooh, like of all time? Or
like this fall.
Season?
It could be general trend, too.
I am a fan of the big fall coat. Like
an oversized?
Like an oversized coat. And this is a trend that I really struggle with because I'm all of 5'1". And so the problem here is that anytime I wear, like, I always try to get these big coats and, like, I look like an ant. But I've really come to realize that I will not be dressing for my height any longer.
And there's also petite clothing now.
Not that much, doll. That deserves its own topic. Let me tell you, I've been trying to find a black coat for literally eons at this point.
We'll talk about it in our fashion trends.
I know. Episode. And I'm like, being short is not fun because there's only 5'5" and above. Rude. But anyway.
Wait, well, what is petite considered? 5'4" and under, right?
5'3" and under.
Okay. I feel like some stores like Abercrombie and them.
Abercrombie's like literally the only store that has inclusive clothing like that.
What about Aritzia?
No, they don't have petite.
They have petite coats?
They have petite. They have petite in some things, but like not everything. I know. And the coat is like, you need it not only for the height, like you need like the width to be the right size. You need the proportions, the right shoulders.
Size. Yeah.
My shoulders are always the biggest problem because I have smaller shoulders and everything is like built for like broad shoulders. Yeah. And I'm like, I look so weird in this. But yeah, I do love it in general. I love the fall coat. What's yours?
Okay, mine's also a coat, but I am really into trench coats, and I've been trying to buy one. I haven't found one that I like really, really love. So if anyone has any trench coats that they're obsessed with the fit, the flow of it, I just want a classic trench coat that I can wear every single fall. Like, I don't want to keep replacing this trench coat. Want it on the longer side, a little bit fitted, but not too fitted. Yeah, I just want a classic trench coat, and I feel like it just looks so good with everything. You just look so much more put together.
Yeah,
and I feel like you can throw it on. It's kind of the perfect coat and jacket for the 55 to like 65 degree weather.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Okay, fun,
amazing.
This has been a fun episode. So we'll plug the pod really quick. First and foremost, please give us any and all feedback that you have on these episodes. We want to know what you guys want to hear from us, and we want to keep pushing out that content to you. If you have any guests that you want us to have, let's not reach too far. Like Michelle Obama, we can't do that right now.
Let's reel it in.
But if you guys have any guests that you want to hear from, or any genres of guests that you want to hear from, we will do the hard work and get them here for you. But other than that, if you guys could hit us with a review on Apple or Spotify if you're loving the show. And if you want more fun content, we are making ridiculous reels all the time on Instagram at Experts About Nothing. And yeah, we really appreciate it.
Are loving your fall. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.